crack of Blake Morrison's palm across her face silenced 50 people mid-conversation. Maya's head snapped sideways, wine glass steady in her hand. Blood traced her bottom lip. She didn't cry, didn't stumble, just touched her burning cheek and looked him dead in the eye with something cold enough to freeze bourbon. "You should hope that's the worst decision you make tonight," she said. Morrison laughed. His crew laughed. 20 cell phones recorded everything. What none of them knew, what Morrison wouldn't understand until federal agents had him in handcuffs 72 hours later, was that the quiet woman he'd just humiliated wasn't Maya Sanders, logistics coordinator. She was Lieutenant Maya Chen, Navy SEAL, and she'd been hunting him for 6 months. The chandeliers at the Harbor Grand Hotel threw expensive light across expensive people wearing expensive smiles. Charity gala season in San Diego meant the same faces, the same champagne, the same conversations about quarterly earnings disguised as concern for underprivileged children. Maya Chen stood near the seafood display, white wine in hand she hadn't touched, watching everything while appearing to notice nothing. She'd mastered that particular skill in Kandahar, then Mogadishu, then in a dozen other places where looking invisible kept you breathing. Tonight she wore it like the modest navy dress that marked her as support staff, present but unimportant, seen but not remembered. "Maya, right?" She turned. James Park, one of the younger warehouse supervisors, held 2 plates of canapés he clearly didn't want. "That's right." Her smile was carefully calibrated, friendly but not familiar. "You're not eating?" "Not hungry." He glanced toward the executive tables where Blake Morrison held court, $300 scotch in one hand, the other gesturing broadly at some story his audience pretended to find fascinating. "You should stay away from that section tonight," James said quietly. "Morrison's already 4 drinks in. When he gets like this, he starts looking for targets." "Appreciate the warning." James shifted his weight. "I saw what he did to the last coordinator who corrected him about something. Made her life hell for 3 months until she quit." Maya's expression didn't change, but she filed that detail away in the mental folder she'd been building for half a year. Morrison's pattern: public humiliation, systematic harassment, forcing resignations without official terminations. Clean paperwork, destroyed lives. "I'll be careful," she said. But careful wasn't the plan tonight. Tonight was about pushing buttons. She waited until Morrison's audience grew larger, until the circle around him included the regional director Derek Walsh and security chief Tom Riker. Then she moved closer, just within earshot, listening to Morrison describe the company's expansion into Pacific Rim shipping routes. "We're running weekly shipments through Manila now," Morrison announced. "Fastest turnaround in the industry. 48 hours dock to delivery." Maya's eyebrows raised slightly. The reports she'd filed with Naval Intelligence showed 72-hour averages minimum. Someone was lying about efficiency numbers, which usually meant someone was hiding what the extra time was actually for. Morrison noticed her reaction. "Something funny, sweetheart?" The circle went quiet. Maya felt 20 pairs of eyes shift toward her. "No, sir. Just surprised by the efficiency." "Surprised?" Morrison's smile didn't reach his eyes. "You work in logistics, don't you? Sanders, right?" "Yes, sir." "Then maybe you can explain to everyone here why you look surprised when your VP discusses operational excellence." She could have backed down. Should have, if she wanted to maintain cover. But Maya had learned something about men like Morrison during 6 months of watching him operate. They respected aggression more than submission, and they always underestimated women who spoke with precision. "The Manila route shows 72-hour averages in the third quarter reports," she said evenly. "I process those manifests every week. So 48 hours would represent a significant improvement I haven't seen documented." The silence stretched. Morrison's face shifted from amused to something harder. You memorize shipping manifests? Part of my job, sir. Your job is to coordinate logistics, not question executive statements. I wasn't questioning, just noting the discrepancy. Walsh laughed, sharp and ugly. Listen to this. Support staff giving lessons to the VP of Operations. Morrison stepped closer, not threatening, not yet, but asserting space. Let me tell you something, Maya. People at your level don't get to note discrepancies about people at my level. You understand the hierarchy here? Yes, sir. Do you? He looked around the circle, playing to his audience now. Because from where I'm standing, it sounds like some coordinator who's been here 6 months thinks she knows more about operations than someone who's built this division for 15 years. Maya said nothing. The tactical part of her brain, the part that had kept her alive through 3 tours in hostile territory, cataloged everything. Morrison's elevated pulse visible in his neck, the way Riker had quietly moved to block the nearest exit, Walsh pulling out his phone, probably recording. Good. Let them record. I'm sorry if I spoke out of turn, Maya said, her tone neutral. Sorry if? Morrison repeated. That's not an apology. That's corporate speak for, I'm not actually sorry. I apologize for any confusion about the shipping data. Still not hearing it. Morrison's voice rose enough that conversations at nearby tables stopped. You know what your problem is? You're one of these women who thinks being in the room means having a voice. This is an executive function. You're here serving food to your betters. Know your role. Maya felt heat crawl up her neck, not from embarrassment, from the sheer calculated cruelty of it. Around the circle, some faces showed discomfort. Most showed nothing. That was worse. I understand, she said quietly. Do you? Morrison turned to his audience. See, this is what happens when HR pushes diversity hires into positions they're not qualified for. You get support staff who think they can lecture executives at charity events. Walsh raised his phone higher. Definitely recording now. Maya looked Morrison in the eye. The data I referenced is from official company reports. If there's an error, I'm happy to review. The slap came fast. Not a full swing, just a sharp, open-palm crack across her left cheek that snapped her head sideways and killed every conversation within 30 feet. Maya didn't stumble, didn't cry out. She just stood there, her cheek blooming red, white wine still somehow steady in her hand. That's for talking back, Morrison said, his voice carrying across the sudden silence. Consider it a learning experience about corporate etiquette. She could have dropped him. 3 moves, maybe 4. Strike to the solar plexus, sweep the leg, compression hold until security arrived. She'd neutralized armed insurgents with less provocation. Instead, Maya touched her cheek, felt the heat radiating from where his palm had connected, and spoke clearly enough that Walsh's phone would catch every word. You should hope that's the worst decision you make tonight. Morrison's expression shifted, confusion mixed with something that might have been the first flutter of uncertainty. Are you threatening me? No, sir. Just making an observation. Security, Morrison called out, not taking his eyes off Maya. Escort Miss Sanders out. Apparently she's had too much to drink. Maya hadn't touched her wine, and everyone there knew it. 2 security guards appeared, not Riker, he stayed with Morrison. The guards looked uncomfortable but did their jobs, one on each side of Maya as she set down her glass with precise care. I'll need your event credentials, one guard said, apologetic. She unclipped the badge without argument, handed it over. As they guided her toward the exit, Maya caught sight of James Park near the buffet, his face pale. She gave him the smallest nod, Not reassurance, just acknowledgement. He'd been right about staying away from Morrison's section. She'd ignored that warning for exactly this outcome. The hotel lobby felt cooler, quieter. The guards released her arms once they were clear of the ballroom. "Ma'am, I'm sorry about that," the younger guard said. "Morrison can be—" "It's fine." "It's not fine, but it's not our call." Maya nodded. "Can you tell me where the nearest police station is?" Both guards looked at her sharply. "You filing a report?" "Yes." The older guard cleared his throat. "Ma'am, that might not be wise. Morrison has lawyers." "I'm sure he does." "Police station?" He gave her the address, 3 blocks west. Maya walked out of the Harbor Grand into San Diego night air that tasted like salt and gasoline. Behind her, through the hotel's glass doors, the gala continued. Morrison would be spinning the story already, turning assault into justified discipline, turning her into the problem. Let him. She pulled out her phone, not her personal cell, the secure device Naval Intelligence had issued, and typed a quick message to her handler, Captain Sarah Voss. Primary target took the bait. Assault documented. Multiple witnesses. Moving to Phase 2. The response came 30 seconds later. Phase 2 was information gathering, not getting physically assaulted. "You okay?" Maya touched her cheek again. "It would bruise." "Good. Bruise builds credibility." "He thinks he won. That's exactly where we need him." "Still don't like you taking hits for this operation." "Part of the job." She pocketed the phone and started walking toward the police station. Halfway there, her personal phone buzzed. Text from a number she didn't recognize. She opened it. A video. 23 seconds. Morrison slapping her. Her response. The escort out. Already uploaded to the company's internal social network with the caption, "Support staff learning boundaries at tonight's gala." 47 shares in the 12 minutes since she'd left the event. Maya watched it twice, studying Morrison's face in the moment before he struck. Anger, yes, but something else underneath. Desperation, maybe. Like a man protecting something more important than his ego. She saved the video and kept walking. The Harbor District Police Station smelled like burned coffee and institutional cleaning solution. The desk sergeant looked up from his paperwork when Maya approached, his expression shifting from bored to alert when he saw her face. "Ma'am, you okay?" "I need to file an assault report." "You want medical first?" "No, just the report." He pulled out a form, clicked his pen. "Name?" "Maya Sanders." She used her cover name automatically, then corrected. "Actually, I need to speak with someone privately." The sergeant's eyes narrowed. "What kind of report is this?" Maya lowered her voice. "The assault is real, but there are complications about my identity that require discretion." He studied her for a long moment, then picked up his desk phone. "Morales, I need you up front. Bring the private interview room key." 5 minutes later, Maya sat across from Detective Rosa Morales, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who listened without interrupting as Maya explained the situation, or at least the version she was authorized to share. "So you're undercover naval intelligence," Morales said when Maya finished. "Investigating this shipping company for weapons trafficking, and tonight the VP slapped you at a charity event." "That's correct." "And you want to file a civilian assault report, even though it might compromise your operation." "It won't compromise anything. It'll enhance it." Morales leaned back. "How?" "Because Morrison thinks he's untouchable. He thinks slapping a low-level coordinator has no consequences. Filing this report officially starts a paper trail that proves pattern and intent." "You're building a case." "I'm building several cases. The trafficking charges are federal." "But the assault, the workplace harassment, The systematic intimidation of employees, those are state charges that can run concurrent. It boxes him in from multiple angles. Morales pulled out a fresh form. You thought this through. It's what I do. They spent 40 minutes documenting everything. The slap, the words, the witnesses, the video evidence already circulating. Morales asked good questions, the kind that would hold up in court. This Morrison, Morales said as Maya signed the final page. He do this kind of thing often? According to my research, he's got a pattern going back 8 years. 12 employees forced out after reporting harassment or assault. Every case settled with NDAs and severance packages. No criminal charges ever filed. Until now. Until now. Morales handed her a copy of the report. You need protective services? Maya almost smiled. No, Detective. I'm good. You Navy SEALs. Morales shook her head. I worked with a SEAL team on a joint task force in 2018. Craziest bunch of calm people I ever met. You could be bleeding out, and you'd still ask about proper documentation procedures. Documentation matters. Yeah, I'm learning that. Morales stood, extended her hand. Good luck with your operation, Lieutenant. And for what it's worth, I hope you nail this bastard to the wall. They shook. Maya's grip was firm, but not aggressive. Another calibration. Another performance. Outside the station, Maya checked her secure phone. Call me. Now. Voss. She found a quiet alcove 2 blocks away and dialed. Voss answered on the first ring. What the hell were you thinking? Getting Morrison on record for assault? You got yourself hurt. Strategically hurt. There's a difference. Chen, I'm ordering you to pull back. This operation isn't worth... Ma'am, with respect, we're 6 months into a pattern analysis that links Pacific Freight Solutions to weapons shipments into 4 countries. Morrison is the operational center. If we pull back now, we lose everything. If we keep going, we might lose you. Maya touched her cheek again, felt the swelling starting. One slap isn't going to stop me. Silence on the line. Then Voss sighed. I hate when you do this. Do what? Act like consequences don't apply to you because you've already calculated them into the plan. Isn't that good intelligence work? It's good intelligence work that's going to give me a heart attack. Another pause. Fine. But if Morrison escalates beyond verbal, he already did. That's why the police report matters. Chen. I've got this, Captain. Trust me. I trust you. I don't trust Morrison. You shouldn't. Neither should his lawyers, because in about 3 hours, they're going to realize he assaulted a federal officer during an active investigation. Voss's tone shifted. You're not revealing your cover. Not yet, but my civilian report triggers certain mandatory reviews. Those reviews will eventually surface the federal interest. By the time Morrison's legal team understands what they're dealing with, we'll have enough documentation to bury them. You playing chess while everyone else plays checkers. Something like that. All right. But Chen, next time someone wants to slap you, dodge. Noted, ma'am. Maya ended the call and started the walk back to her apartment, the small 1-bedroom in a middle-class complex that matched Maya Sanders's salary and lifestyle. Not the actual place where Lieutenant Maya Chen kept her service records and Navy Cross. Her phone buzzed again. Personal number, unknown sender. Another video. This one was security footage. Timestamp showed tonight, approximately 20 minutes before Morrison slapped her. The angle showed the executive office corridor on the ballroom's 2nd floor, empty for 3 minutes. Then a figure in a server's uniform walked past, carrying a tablet that definitely wasn't standard catering equipment. The figure paused outside Morrison's private office, glanced both ways, swiped a keycard that shouldn't have worked. That office required executive-level credentials. Disappeared inside for exactly 7 minutes. Emerged empty-handed and walked away with the practiced casualness of someone who belonged there. Maya's heart rate kicked up, not from fear, from recognition. She knew that walk, knew that build. The server was her. But that was impossible. At that exact timestamp, Maya had been in the ballroom, talking to James Park, nowhere near Morrison's office. She watched the footage 3 more times. Then she called Voss back. "Someone just sent me security footage," Maya said without preamble, "showing me breaking into Morrison's office during the gala." "What?" "Except I wasn't there. I was downstairs the entire time." Voss was quiet for 3 seconds. "Someone's setting you up." "Or someone's setting up Morrison to think I'm a bigger threat than I actually am." "I don't follow." Maya turned down a side street, checking reflections in shop windows for tails. Clear. "If Morrison sees this footage, he'll think I used the gala as cover to access his files, which means he'll think I already have evidence, which means he'll panic and make mistakes." "Exactly." "Chen, this is getting complicated." "It was always complicated. Now it's just accelerating." "Who sent you the footage?" Maya checked the sender information. Encrypted relay, no trace. "Someone who wants me to know Morrison's being watched from multiple angles. Someone who wants me to know I'm not the only player in this game." "I don't like unknowns." "Neither do I. But right now, that unknown just gave us leverage we didn't have an hour ago." She could hear Voss typing in the background, probably pulling up the team's surveillance logs. "I'm checking our monitoring. We didn't have anyone in that corridor at that timestamp." "Then who did?" "That's what terrifies me." Maya reached her apartment building, scanned the street one more time. A sedan with tinted windows sat 3 spaces down, engine running. Not traffic, not residents. Watchers. Morrison's people or someone else's? "Captain, I've got a tail." "Get inside. Lock down." "They're not moving, just watching." "Chen." "I'm going in, but this changes the timeline. Morrison's already escalating. We need to be ready to move sooner than planned." "How soon?" Maya looked at her bruised reflection in the building's glass door. 72 hours. Maybe less." "That's not enough time to. It'll have to be." She ended the call and walked inside, leaving the watchers in their sedan with their questions, and their cameras, and their growing certainty that Maya Sanders was far more dangerous than anyone had initially calculated. Behind her, San Diego settled into its Friday night rhythms, traffic and bar crowds and the distant sound of foghorns from the harbor. And in a ballroom 3 miles away, Blake Morrison was pouring his 5th scotch and telling anyone who'd listen about the hysterical coordinator he'd had to discipline tonight. He had no idea that every word was being recorded. No idea that his company's server logs were being quietly copied by federal investigators. No idea that the woman he'd slapped had just set in motion a cascade that would destroy everything he'd spent 15 years building. But he'd learn. They always did. Just never quite fast enough to save themselves. Maya's apartment stayed dark for exactly 3 minutes after she entered, long enough for the watchers outside to wonder if she'd noticed them. Long enough for her to move through the space using muscle memory, checking corners, windows, the ventilation grate she'd modified during week 1 of the assignment. Her secure phone vibrated. Text from a number that hadn't existed 5 minutes ago. "Check your refrigerator. Behind the milk." Maya's blood went cold, not from fear, from calculation. Someone had been inside her apartment. Someone who knew exactly which appliance wouldn't trigger her standard security sweep because food required regular replacement. She crossed to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, moved the milk carton. A micro SD card, wrapped in plastic. She held it up to the dim light from the street, turned it over. No markings, no indication of origin. The phone buzzed again. Play it, then decide who you trust. Maya inserted the card into her laptop, the civilian one, not the secured naval intelligence device. Whatever this was, she wanted compartmentalization until she understood the source. The video loaded. Timestamp from 3 weeks ago. Interior security footage from Pacific Freight Solutions, executive conference room. Morrison, Walsh, and Riker seated around a table with 2 men Maya didn't recognize. Expensive suits, Eastern European accents when the audio kicked in. "The Manila route can handle the volume," Morrison was saying. "We've tested it with 3 shipments. No customs flags, no delays." One of the strangers leaned forward. "And your people inside the Port Authority?" "Paid, secure. They know what containers to expedite and what paperwork to lose." "We need confirmation on the weapons manifest. The client is particular about specifications." Morrison slid a folder across the table. "RPGs, Semtex, 50 crates of AKs. Everything the client requested. Delivery in 48 hours once payment clears." Maya's hands steadied on the laptop edge. This was it. Directed mission. Specific contraband. Timeline. This single video could fast-track the federal case by months. But who sent it? And why now, hours after Morrison assaulted her? Her personal phone rang. Not the secure device. The civilian number only friends and family had. She checked the caller ID. Mom. Maya almost didn't answer. Operational security meant limiting personal contact during deep cover assignments. But her mother only called late at night when something was wrong. "Hey, Mom." "Maya, honey, I just saw something online." Her mother's voice carried that particular tone of controlled worry perfected over 28 years of loving a daughter who'd chosen dangerous careers. "There's a video going around. Someone hitting you." Maya closed her eyes. Of course, it had spread beyond company networks. Someone always leaked these things. "I'm okay, Mom." "You're not okay. I watched him slap you. I watched you just stand there." "I had my reasons." Maya Chen. You didn't survive SEAL training and 3 combat deployments to let some corporate bully put his hands on you. "Mom, your brother would be furious." The words hit harder than Morrison's slap. Michael, 3 years dead, killed by an IED built with trafficked weapons that should never have made it into civilian markets. The reason Maya had volunteered for this assignment in the first place. "I know what Michael would think," Maya said quietly. "That's why I'm doing this." Her mother was silent for 5 seconds, then softer. "You're working?" "Yeah." "This is about that shipping company investigation you couldn't talk about?" "Yeah." Another pause. "The man who hit you, he's involved?" "Deeply." "And you let him hit you because now there's documentation, video evidence, a police report, pattern of behavior that a good prosecutor can use to establish character." Her mother exhaled slowly. "You're so much like your father sometimes." "Everything's strategy." "Dad would have dodged the slap." "No, your father would have put that man through a wall. You're more patient than he ever was. More dangerous, too, probably." Maya felt something loosen in her chest. "I'm going to make this right, Mom. Morrison and his crew, they're trafficking weapons, the kind that killed Michael. I'm going to stop them." "I know you will, baby. Just promise me you'll be careful. These people who sent your brother that bomb, they didn't care about consequences. They won't either. I promise. They talked for another minute, surface conversation about weather and Maya's fictional logistics coordinator job, before hanging up. Maya set the phone down, looked at the frozen video frame on her laptop. Morrison's face, casual and confident, discussing weapons sales like they were quarterly profit margins. The secure phone buzzed. Voss. Tell me you saw the footage I just sent, Maya said. What footage? Conference room video, 3 weeks old. Morrison discussing weapons shipments with buyers. Chen, I didn't send you anything. Where did it come from? Maya's apartment suddenly felt smaller. Someone broke into my place, left it in the refrigerator with instructions to watch. Get out, now! That's an order. Captain, whoever left this wants me to have it. If they wanted me dead, I'd already be dead. You don't know that. I know tradecraft. This is an ally. Unconventional, unidentified, but an ally. Or it's Morrison setting you up with doctored evidence. Maya rewound the footage, studied Morrison's micro-expressions, the way his left hand tapped the table when discussing payment, the brief eye contact with Walsh before mentioning port authority contacts. These weren't performed gestures. They were authentic tells. It's real, Maya said. And whoever sent it has access to Morrison's security system. That's either internal betrayal or external surveillance beyond what we've established. I don't like unknowns working my operation. Neither do I, but we can use this. How? Morrison doesn't know we have it, which means when we move against him, this is backup evidence he won't see coming. Insurance if our primary case hits complications. Voss was quiet, thinking. You need to come in. Safe house protocol until we identify your mysterious benefactor. Can't. Morrison's watching my apartment. If I disappear, he'll know something's wrong. He already knows something's wrong. He hit you in public. He thinks he scared me. If I run now, I confirm I'm more than I appear. We lose the advantage. Chen, Captain, trust me. I've got this. That's what you said before you got slapped. And look what we gained from it. Sometimes taking a hit is the setup for the knockout. Voss exhaled hard enough for Maya to hear it through the phone. You're going to give me gray hair. You already have gray hair. Well, you're making it worse. Check in every 4 hours. Miss a check-in. I'm sending extraction whether you like it or not. Understood. Maya ended the call and looked at the SD card. Someone was playing a parallel game. Someone with resources, access, and agenda she didn't fully understand yet. But in Maya's experience, mysterious allies were just enemies who hadn't revealed their true objectives yet. She encrypted the video file, uploaded it to naval intelligence servers with full provenance documentation, noting unknown source, then destroyed the SD card. If this was a setup, she wanted clear evidence chain. If it was genuine assistance, she wanted backup. Her civilian phone buzzed. Text from James Park. You okay? Heard about what happened. She typed back, Fine, just embarrassed. You shouldn't be embarrassed. Morrison should be arrested. Probably won't happen. His lawyers are good. Still wrong. Everyone's talking about it. Half the warehouse crew is pissed. The other half is scared. Scared of what? That they're next. Morrison's making examples lately. You, Patterson last month, Reeves before that. People who speak up end up gone. Maya sat forward. Patterson and Reeves. 2 names in the casualty file Naval Intelligence had compiled. Both former employees. Both forced out after reporting Morrison for various violations. Neither had pressed charges. What happened to Patterson? Questioned a shipment that didn't match manifests. Morrison had her transferred to overnight dock shifts, then wrote her up for lateness when the bus schedule didn't match the hours. She quit after 2 weeks. And Reeves? Reported safety violations in the freezer units. Morrison locked him in one during a surprise inspection. Said it was an accident. Reeves settled with severance and an NDA. Maya's jaw tightened. Morrison didn't just assault people. He weaponized workplace systems to destroy them systematically. The slap tonight wasn't anomaly. It was pattern. Thanks for the info. I'll be careful. Maya, seriously, watch yourself. Morrison's got connections. People who can make problems disappear. I'll keep that in mind. She set the phone down and pulled up the personnel files she'd been quietly compiling. Patterson, Reeves, and 10 others. All showed similar trajectories. Hired with good reviews, flagged problems, faced escalating retaliation, forced out within 3 months. Morrison had refined workplace harassment into precision weapon. But precision weapons worked both ways. Maya opened her laptop and began drafting an email to Pacific Freight Solutions' HR department. Professional tone, careful language, CC'd to her personal account for documentation. Subject: Incident report. Executive misconduct at charity event. Dear HR Director Collins, I am writing to formally report an incident that occurred at tonight's Harbor Grand Charity Gala. At approximately 9:47 p.m., VP of Operations Blake Morrison struck me across the face during a verbal altercation witnessed by approximately 50 attendees. The assault was unprovoked beyond my questioning a discrepancy in shipping route efficiency claims Mr. Morrison made during conversation. Video evidence of the incident exists and is currently circulating on company social networks. I have filed a police report, case number 2024-HD-8847, and am requesting formal HR review of this incident per company policy outlined in Employee Handbook, Section 4.7, regarding workplace violence. I am prepared to provide witness statements and video documentation as needed. Respectfully, Maya Sanders, Logistics Coordinator. She hit send at 11:43 p.m. HR wouldn't see it until Monday morning, but that was fine. The longer it sat in official systems, the harder it would be to bury. Her secure phone buzzed. Voss again. You just emailed HR, the captain said without preamble. I'm watching the company's server activity. What are you doing? Creating official paper trail. Morrison can't make me disappear if there's documented HR complaints sitting in corporate systems. You're poking him. I'm boxing him in. Every official report limits his options. Every witness statement makes his lawyers nervous. Every piece of documentation makes settlement more expensive than prosecution. You're assuming his lawyers play by rules. I'm assuming his lawyers care about limiting liability, which means they'll tell Morrison to back off before this becomes federal case. It already is federal case. He doesn't know that yet. Voss laughed, sharp and tired. You know what I hate about this operation? You're better at psychological warfare than you are at shooting. I'm pretty good at shooting. You're exceptional at shooting. You're terrifying at psychological warfare. Maya smiled despite herself. I'll take that as a compliment, Captain. It wasn't. Yes, it was. Look, Morrison's going to see that email Monday morning. He's going to retaliate. I need you ready for whatever that looks like. I'm ready. Chen, I'm serious. This man has already hit you once. He's escalating. Next time might be worse than a slap. Next time I won't be at corporate event with witnesses. I'll be ready. That's what I'm afraid of. You're SEAL, not superhero. You can be hurt. Maya touched her bruised cheek. I know, Captain. But I also know Morrison. He's not fighter. He's bully. And bullies fold when you hit back properly. Just don't get yourself killed proving point. They ended the call. Maya checked the window. Sedan still outside. Watchers still watching. She gave them small show, moving past the window twice with visible phone, looking stressed, playing the part of rattled logistics coordinator who'd had terrible night. Let them report back to Morrison that his slap had landed emotionally. Let them think she was vulnerable. Sunday morning came cold and gray, marine layer hanging over San Diego like wet blanket. Maya's alarm went off at 5:30, old habit from SEAL training that she'd never broken. She ran 6 miles along the harbor, keeping pace steady, breathing controlled, watching her peripheral vision for tails. 2 this morning. Different sedan, same obvious surveillance. Morrison was definitely paying attention. She showered, dressed in civilian clothes that matched Maya Sanders's wardrobe. Jeans, simple blouse, nothing that suggested tactical awareness. Then she drove to the address Captain Voss had texted at 600. Safe house on the edge of National City. Nondescript rental property that Naval Intelligence maintained for exactly these situations. Voss met her at the door, coffee already made. "You look like hell," the captain said. "Slept great, thanks." "Your cheeks purple." "Bruises tend to do that." They sat at the kitchen table. Voss slid a folder across. Surveillance updates from overnight. Morrison made 3 calls to his lawyer. Walsh visited his office at Pacific Freight at 0200 hours. Riker ran background checks on you through a private security firm. Maya opened the folder. Her cover identity held. Maya Sanders, degree from Cal State, 5 years in supply chain logistics, clean record, unremarkable background. Exactly as designed. "They're looking for leverage," Maya said. "They're looking for weakness. How's your cover holding emotionally? You talked to your mom last night." "She saw the video. I couldn't ignore the call without raising suspicion." "What'd you tell her?" "Enough to keep her from calling the FBI herself. She knows I'm working, doesn't know details." Voss nodded. "Your mother raised a SEAL. She understands operational security better than most." "She also raised Michael." Maya looked up. "This operation, Captain, it's not just about stopping Morrison. It's about stopping the network that got my brother killed. Same weapons pipeline, same disregard for consequences." "I know. That's why I approved your assignment despite concerns about emotional investment." "You think I'm too close?" "I think you're exactly close enough to be effective, and exactly close enough to be reckless. It's a narrow line." Maya closed the folder. "What's the plan for tomorrow?" "You go to work. Act normal. Morrison's going to make move when he sees your HR email. We need you in position to document whatever that move is." "You want me to take another hit?" "I want you to be smart. There's difference between tactical patience and martyrdom." "I know the difference." "Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're awfully comfortable letting Morrison use you as punching bag if it serves operational goals." Maya's jaw tightened. "I'm comfortable doing my job." "Your job is intelligence gathering, not absorbing abuse. Sometimes they're the same thing." Voss leaned back, studied her. "You know what your problem is, Chen? You're so good at compartmentalizing pain that you forget other people can see it affecting you. Your mom saw it. I see it. Morrison sees it, which is why he's escalating." "Good. Let him escalate. Every escalation is documentation. Every documentation is evidence. Every evidence is nail in his coffin." "And if one of those nails goes through you?" "Then you finish the job." The silence stretched between them. Finally, Voss shook her head. "You're dismissed. Check in every 4 hours. And Chen, if Morrison touches you again, you have permission to defend yourself. I don't care about cover preservation if it means you taking unnecessary damage." "Understood, Captain." Maya drove back to her apartment, the tail picking her up 3 blocks from the safe house. She led them on mundane Sunday errands, grocery store, gas station, bookstore, building the profile of woman trying to maintain normalcy after traumatic event. At 1600 hours, her civilian phone rang. Unknown number. Ms. Sanders? Female voice, professional, neutral. Yes? This is Rebecca Chen from Morrison Legal Group. I represent Blake Morrison in matter of Friday evening's incident. Maya's heart rate stayed steady. Here we go. I see. Mr. Morrison has asked me to reach out regarding your HR complaint and police report. He's deeply concerned about misunderstanding that occurred and would like opportunity to resolve this matter privately. What kind of resolution? Mr. Morrison is prepared to offer substantial severance package in exchange for withdrawal of all complaints and signed non-disclosure agreement. We're talking 6 figures, Ms. Sanders. Enough to relocate, start fresh, put this unfortunate incident behind you. How much exactly? $250,000. Tax-free settlement. All you need to do is sign agreement stating Friday's events were misunderstanding, withdraw police report, and agree not to discuss matter publicly. Maya let the pause extend. That's a lot of money for misunderstanding. Mr. Morrison values his reputation and the company's integrity. He believes this is fair compensation for distress caused. And if I don't accept? The voice cooled slightly. Then we proceed through official channels. Discovery, depositions, potential countersuit for defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Mr. Morrison has a very good legal team, Mrs. Sanders. Very expensive legal team. Can you afford that kind of fight? There it was, the threat wrapped in professional language. I'll need to think about it, Maya said. We need answer by tomorrow morning, 0900 hours. After that, offer expires and we move to more aggressive legal posture. I understand. Good. I'll expect your call. The line went dead. Maya immediately called Voss. Morrison's lawyer just offered me $250,000 to go away. That's admission of guilt. That's desperation. He knows the video makes this impossible to spin. He's trying to buy silence before it goes further. What'd you tell her? That I'd think about it. And when you call back tomorrow? Maya smiled. I'm going to tell her I want $500,000, and I want it in writing. And I want Morrison's personal apology included in the settlement. You're negotiating? I'm stalling. Every hour they spend on settlement talks is hour they're not destroying evidence, and the higher I push the number, the more nervous their lawyers get about what I actually know. Voss laughed. You know what? I take it back. You're not terrifying at psychological warfare. You're absolutely ruthless. Thank you, Captain. That definitely wasn't compliment this time. Monday morning arrived with unseasonable rain. Maya dressed for work, same professional coordinator outfit she'd worn 100 times, and drove to Pacific Freight Solutions through traffic that moved like cold honey. The sedan followed 3 cars back. She parked in her usual spot, scanned her badge at employee entrance, rode elevator to 3rd floor where the logistics coordinators worked in open office layout that smelled like coffee and recycled air. James Park intercepted her near the break room. Maya, you actually came in. Why wouldn't I? Because Morrison's been here since 0600. He's in his office with Walsh and Riker. They've been in meetings all morning. Probably standard Monday operations. After what happened Friday? Nothing about this is standard. Maya poured coffee she didn't want. I appreciate the concern, James, but I'm fine. You're not fine. Your face is still bruised, and everyone's talking about whether Morrison's going to fire you or... He stopped. Or what? Or make you disappear like the others. Maya met his eyes. I'm harder to disappear than I look. James started to respond, but movement near the executive corridor cut him off. Morrison emerged from his office, Walsh at his shoulder. Both men locked eyes on Maya immediately. Morrison crossed the floor, not fast, not slow, deliberate. The open office went quiet. That specific silence when everyone pretends to work while actually watching drama unfold. Ms. Sanders, Morrison's voice carried. My office. Now. Maya set down her coffee. Of course, sir. She followed him back across the floor, aware of every eye tracking her movement. Walsh pulled the door closed behind them. Riker stood near Morrison's desk, arms crossed. 3 men, 1 woman. Enclosed space. No witnesses. Morrison sat behind his desk, didn't invite Maya to sit. I understand you filed HR complaint, he said. Yes, sir. And police report. Yes, sir. And rejected very generous settlement offer from my attorneys. I asked for time to consider it, sir. Morrison's expression hardened. Let me be very clear, Ms. Sanders. You have 2 options. Accept the settlement my lawyers offered, which, frankly, is more than you deserve, or face termination for gross insubordination and professional misconduct. What misconduct? Accessing confidential shipping manifests without authorization, questioning executive authority in public settings, creating hostile work environment through false accusations. Maya kept her voice level. Those accusations are documented with video evidence. Video evidence can be misinterpreted, taken out of context. My lawyers are confident we can demonstrate you initiated confrontation Friday night. By correcting factual error about shipping routes? Morrison leaned forward. By embarrassing your superior in front of clients and colleagues. By creating scene. By forcing me to take disciplinary action. Disciplinary action that involved striking me across the face. Physical contact that occurred during heated exchange you provoked. Maya said nothing, just looked at him with the same calm she'd used when insurgents pointed rifles at her head in Mogadishu. The same calm that made dangerous men nervous because they couldn't read what was happening behind it. Morrison's jaw tightened. You think you're clever, filing complaints, making demands, but you're just logistics coordinator, sweetheart. You're replaceable. Perhaps. You have until end of business today to accept settlement. After that, you're terminated. And trust me, with the documentation we'll create around your performance issues, you won't work in this industry again. Maya met his eyes. Is that all, sir? Get out. She turned and left. Walsh opened the door. As she passed, he leaned close enough for only her to hear. Should have taken the money. Now you've just made everything harder for yourself. Maya didn't respond, just walked back to her desk, logged into her computer, and began working like nothing had happened. But her secure phone, hidden in her bag, was recording every word Morrison and his crew said after she left. And 3 floors down, in car parked across the street, Naval Intelligence Team photographed everyone entering Morrison's office for the rest of the day. The trap was closing. Morrison just didn't know he was the one caught inside it yet. The rest of Monday crawled. Maya sat at her desk, processing manifests that didn't matter, answering emails that wouldn't survive the week, maintaining the performance of a woman whose world was collapsing, when actually every second brought Morrison closer to his own destruction. At 1400 hours, her personal phone buzzed. Morrison's lawyer. Ms. Sanders, I haven't received your response to our settlement offer. I'm still considering it. Time's running out. Mr. Morrison has been very generous. I'd hate to see you make a decision you'll regret. Maya switched the phone to her other ear. I'd like to counteroffer. Silence. Then, carefully. What kind of counter? 500,000, plus written apology from Mr. Morrison acknowledging his behavior was inappropriate, plus agreement that my personnel file reflects voluntary resignation with positive references. That's, Mrs. Sanders, that's not reasonable. Neither was getting slapped in front of 50 people. But here we are. I'll need to consult with my client. You have until 1700 hours. After that, I'm calling a press conference." Maya ended the call before the lawyer could respond. Bluff, obviously. She had no intention of going to the press. But Morrison's legal team didn't know that, and the threat would force them to scramble, to make mistakes, to reveal their actual exposure level. Her secure phone vibrated. Text from Voss. "Nice play. His lawyers just requested emergency partner meeting. You've got them spooked." Maya typed back. "Good. Spooked people make errors. Just don't push so hard they pull trigger on termination. We need you inside until tonight." "What's tonight?" "Satellite imaging shows container shipment arriving Terminal 7 at 2100 hours. Same route as the Manila trafficking pattern. This might be our proof." Maya's pulse quickened. "I'll be there." "Negative. We handle this. You've done your part." "Captain, if Morrison's personally overseeing this shipment, I need to document it." "Chen, that's not your call." "It's exactly my call. I'm the embedded operative. This is why I'm here." Long pause, then. "If you go with backup. No heroics." Understood. But Maya was already calculating scenarios where backup wouldn't arrive fast enough, where she'd need to act alone, where her SEAL training would be the only thing standing between evidence and destruction. At 16:30 hours, Morrison's assistant appeared at Maya's desk. "Mr. Morrison wants to see you." "Now?" "No." Maya saved her work, not that it mattered, and walked to the executive corridor. Same path as this morning, same watchful eyes from colleagues who'd already written her off as another casualty of Morrison's temper. Morrison's office door stood open. He sat behind his desk, Walsh in the chair to his left, Riker leaning against the window. "Close the door," Morrison said. Maya did. "My lawyers tell me you want $500,000 and a public apology." "That's correct." Morrison laughed, harsh and bitter. "You've got some nerve, I'll give you that." "I have documentation, witnesses, and video evidence. You assaulted me. My nerve is irrelevant." "Your documentation is circumstantial. Your witnesses are unreliable. Your video shows mutual confrontation that escalated." "That's not what the police report says." "Police reports can be challenged." Morrison stood. "But I didn't call you in here to negotiate. I called you in here to make something very clear. You're done. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Your severance is 2 weeks' pay, and the understanding that if you pursue this legally, we will destroy you." Maya didn't move. "You can't fire me for filing an HR complaint. That's retaliation. That's illegal." "I'm firing you for performance issues documented over the past 6 months. Your attendance, your attitude, your repeated insubordination." "That documentation doesn't exist." Walsh slid a folder across Morrison's desk. "Actually, it does. Performance reviews, written warnings, supervisor complaints, all properly dated and filed." Maya opened the folder. Fabricated documents. Backdated disciplinary actions she'd never received. Performance scores that contradicted her actual work record. They'd manufactured an entire paper trail. "This is fraud," she said quietly. "This is documentation," Morrison corrected. "And it's all legal. So here's what happens. You leave. You sign the NDA. You take your 2 weeks severance, and you disappear. Or we file criminal charges for theft of proprietary information, unauthorized access to confidential files, and corporate espionage." "Corporate espionage?" Riker stepped forward. "Security footage shows you accessed restricted shipping manifests outside your authorization. We have server logs, timestamps, everything we need." The footage. The mysterious video someone had sent showing her, or someone who looked like her, breaking into Morrison's office during the gala. They were using it against her. "I never accessed those files," Maya said. "The evidence says otherwise." Morrison's smile was pure malice. "So what's it going to be, sweetheart? Walk away quietly, or we press charges that'll follow you for the rest of your life?" Maya looked at each of them. Morrison, triumphant. Walsh, calculating. Riker, already bored with this victory. "I need time to consider." "You have 5 minutes. Security's waiting outside." Maya turned and left without another word. She didn't go to her desk, went straight to the restroom, locked herself in a stall, and called Voss on the secure phone. "They're forcing me out. Now. Security escort. Fabricated termination docs. And they're threatening criminal charges using that footage of someone accessing Morrison's files." "That's leverage. They're scared." "They're eliminating me before I can do more damage." "Good. Let them think they've won. We move tonight. Terminal 7. Container shipment at 2100 hours. Federal team's already in position." "I want to be there." "Chen." "Captain, if this goes bad, if Morrison suspects federal involvement, he'll run. I know his patterns. I know his tells. You need me there." Voss was quiet for 3 seconds. "Fine. But your observation only. You spot, you report, you stay clear. No engagement unless absolutely necessary." "Copy that." Maya ended the call, flushed the toilet for appearance, washed her hands, checked her reflection. Bruised cheek, tired eyes, woman who looked beaten. Perfect. She exited the restroom. 2 security guards waited near the elevator. "Ms. Sanders, we need to escort you out." "I understand." They flanked her back to her desk. Colleagues watched, some sympathetic, most relieved it wasn't them. James Park stood near the copy machine, his face pale with anger. Maya gathered her personal items, coffee mug her mother had given her, photo of Michael in his Marine uniform, notepad with lists that didn't matter anymore. "You'll need to surrender your badge and any company materials," one guard said. She handed over the badge, kept the notepad. They didn't ask for it. The elevator ride down was silent. The guards weren't cruel, just professional, doing their jobs, escorting out another employee who'd challenged Morrison and lost. Except she hadn't lost. This was the setup for the actual fight. The parking lot air tasted like diesel and rain. Maya loaded her items into her car, drove away under the watchful eyes of Morrison's surveillance team, and headed straight for the safe house in National City. Voss met her at the door with tactical gear. "You've got 4 hours before the shipment arrives. Eat, rest, brief." Maya dropped her civilian bag and accepted the gear. "Morrison thinks I'm neutralized." "Good. Let's keep it that way until we've got him in cuffs." The briefing room held 6 people. Voss, 2 naval intelligence operatives, 2 FBI agents specializing in weapons trafficking, and Maya. Agent Chen, no relation, ran the operation. "Terminal 7 is isolated. 3 access points. Morrison's crew will likely arrive by the north entrance. Container ship's already docked. Manifest lists the cargo as industrial machinery. Satellite thermal imaging suggests otherwise." "Weapons cache?" Maya asked. "We think it's the big one. The shipment they've been building toward for 6 months. Once we confirm contraband, we move. Full arrest protocol, federal charges." "What's my position?" "South observation point. You spot Morrison, you confirm visual ID, you relay to the team. No engagement." "And if Morrison's crew spots federal presence before we confirm the weapons?" Agent Chen met her eyes. "Then they run. We lose the evidence, and 6 months of work disappears. That's why we need clean confirmation before we move." Maya nodded. "I won't spook them." "See that you don't. You're insurance, not primary operator. The hours crawled and sprinted simultaneously, too slow with anticipation, too fast with preparation. Maya changed into dark tactical clothing, checked her sidearm, standard issue Sig Sauer P226, secured her comms unit, and reviewed Morrison's known patterns one more time. At 20:30 hours, the team deployed. Terminal 7 sat at the edge of the commercial shipping district, surrounded by stacked containers that created a maze of steel corridors. Sodium lights cast everything in orange and shadow. The rain had stopped, but left everything slick and reflective. Maya took position behind a container stack 30 yards from the north entrance. Her earpiece crackled. "Alpha team in position. Bravo team set. Chen, confirm your position. South observation point. Clear line of sight to entrance and container target. Copy. Hold until we have visual confirmation." Maya settled into waiting. Another skill SEAL training had hammered into muscle memory. Her breath slowed. Her heart rate dropped. Everything but observation fell away. At 20:047 hours, headlights appeared. Black SUV. Tinted windows. Slow approach, like they were checking for exactly what Maya's team had set up. "Vehicle approaching north entrance," Maya reported. "Copy. Hold position." The SUV stopped. 3 men emerged. Morrison, Walsh, Riker. All wearing dark clothing, all moving with the careful paranoia of men who knew they were breaking laws. "Visual confirmed. Primary targets on site." "Copy. Waiting for confirmation of illegal activity." Morrison approached the container, used a keypad Maya couldn't see from her angle. The container door opened. He stepped inside. 90 seconds passed. Then Morrison emerged, phone to his ear. "It's here. All of it. Tell the buyers we're ready for transfer." Maya's earpiece. "We need visual on the contents. Chen, can you get closer?" She was already moving. Slipped between container stacks, staying low, using shadows and geometry. Morrison was focused on his phone call. Walsh and Riker stood watch, but were looking outward, not inward. Maya positioned herself near a gap between containers that gave her a narrow sightline into the open cargo unit. Wooden crates, military stenciling, Cyrillic characters. She recognized the markings from briefings: Russian-manufactured weapons, RPGs, Semtex, automatic rifles. "Confirmed visual on weapons cache," she reported. "Russian military hardware. Matches the trafficking profile." "Copy. All teams move on my mark. 3, 2... Morrison's phone rang. He answered, listened. His expression changed. "What do you mean, federal surveillance? Where?" Maya's blood went cold. Morrison looked directly at the container stack where she was hiding. "They're here. Move everything. Now." Walsh and Riker reacted immediately, started closing the container door. "They're running," Maya reported. "Repeat, targets are fleeing. Recommend immediate interdiction." "All teams, move! Move!" But Morrison was faster than expected. He sprinted for the SUV. Walsh followed. Riker pulled a weapon, handgun, looked like a Glock, and fired twice toward the federal team's position. The terminal erupted. Federal agents poured from concealment points, voices shouting commands. Morrison's SUV engine roaring to life. Maya broke cover, running parallel to the SUV's escape route. Morrison saw her. His eyes widened with recognition and pure rage. "You," he snarled through the open window. "You're the leak." The SUV accelerated straight at her. Maya dove right, rolled, came up with her weapon drawn, fired twice at the SUV's rear tire. Both shots hit. Rubber shredded. The vehicle swerved. Morrison overcorrected. The SUV clipped a container corner and spun out, slamming sideways into a stack of pallets. Maya ran toward the wreck. Morrison stumbled out, disoriented. Walsh exited the passenger side, hands raised. Riker was somewhere in the chaos. "Don't move," Maya commanded, weapon trained on Morrison. He looked at her, really looked at her this time. Saw something in her stance, her grip, her absolute calm that finally registered as more than logistics coordinator. "Who are you?" he asked. "Lieutenant Maya Chen, United States Navy SEALs."
You're under arrest for weapons trafficking, assault on a federal officer, and about 15 other charges I'm going to enjoy watching prosecutors explain.
Morrison's face went white. That's not possible. You're just... Just what? Just a woman? Just support staff? Just someone you could slap around and intimidate? Maya kept her weapon steady. That's the problem with people like you, Morrison. You only see what you want to see. And what you wanted to see was someone weak, someone controllable, someone who'd disappear when you pushed hard enough. Federal agents swarmed the scene. Agent Chen appeared at Maya's shoulder. "I've got him. Stand down, Lieutenant." Maya lowered her weapon but didn't holster it. "He's all yours." Agents zip-tied Morrison's wrists, read him his rights. His expression cycled through denial, anger, and finally settling on something that looked like broken comprehension. "The slap," he said as they hauled him toward a federal transport vehicle.
You let me hit you. You documented it. You used it. I used everything you gave me. Your arrogance, your assumptions, your absolute certainty that someone like me couldn't possibly be a threat. But the settlement offers, the legal threats, the termination, delays, distractions. While my team built a case, you were too busy threatening me to notice." Morrison shook his head. 6 months. You were there 6 months, building evidence, documenting patterns, waiting for you to do exactly what you did tonight. Personally oversee a weapons shipment because you couldn't trust anyone else to handle it properly. They loaded him into the transport. Through the window, Maya saw his face. The moment full realization hit. Not just that he'd been caught, but that he'd been outplayed from the very beginning. Walsh was already in custody. Riker tried to run, but made it maybe 40 yards before federal agents tackled him into a puddle. Agent Chen approached Maya. "Clean work, Lieutenant. Your positioning let us lock the scene before they could scatter. Just doing my job?" "You did more than your job. You took a hit for this operation. Literally." Maya touched her bruised cheek. "Small price for taking down a trafficking network." Still, Chen extended his hand. "Respect." They shook. Captain Voss appeared from the command vehicle. "Chen, medical wants to check you over. You discharged your weapon, tackled a suspect, and took fire. That's protocol." "I'm fine, Captain." "That wasn't a request." Maya followed Voss to the medical unit. A Navy corpsman examined her, pronounced her physically sound despite elevated adrenaline and minor bruising from her dive maneuver. While the corpsman worked, Voss leaned against the medical vehicle. "You know what's remarkable about this operation?" "What's that?" "Morrison had every advantage. Resources, lawyers, institutional power. And you beat him with patience and a police report. And tactical positioning. And federal surveillance. And my point stands. You could have taken him down physically on night 1, could have revealed your identity and arrested him on the spot. But you didn't. You built a case that won't just convict him, it'll dismantle his entire network." Maya looked toward the terminal where federal agents were documenting the weapons cache. "That was always the mission, Captain. Morrison was never the end goal. He was the entry point to something bigger. And now we've got it. 3 container ships, 7 intermediaries, buyers in 4 countries. All because you spent 6 months pretending to be someone you're not while a bully slapped you around." "When you say it like that, it sounds almost noble." Voss smiled. "It was noble. Infuriating and reckless, but noble.
They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching federal agents swarm the terminal like organized ants. Then Maya's secure phone buzzed. Text from a number that didn't exist. "Nice work, Lieutenant."
The container on the South Pier has something else you'll want to see. Evidence of the buyer network Morrison was protecting. Consider it a gift. Maya showed Voss the message. "Your mysterious benefactor again." Apparently they're still watching. I don't like unknowns operating in my field. Neither do I, but whoever they are, they've been helping from the start. Voss pulled her own phone, called Agent Chen. "Check the South Pier. Container marked with blue stripe. Possible additional evidence." 2 minutes later, Chen's voice crackled over the radio. "Holy hell! We've got a second cache. Not weapons, documents, shipping manifests, payment records, buyer communications going back 3 years. This is the entire network infrastructure." Voss looked at Maya. "Your ghost comes through again." "Yeah." Maya stared at her phone. "Question is, what do they want in return?" "Maybe some people just want to see justice done, or maybe they're building leverage we haven't identified yet. That's the cynical SEAL talking. That's the experienced operative talking." But Maya pocketed the phone and didn't pursue it further. Tonight was about Morrison. The mystery of her anonymous ally could wait for tomorrow's questions. Federal agents processed the scene for 3 more hours. Maya gave her statement, signed chain of custody documents, and confirmed visual identification of all 3 primary suspects. At 0147 hours, Agent Chen approached her at the command vehicle. "Morrison's lawyer is already making noise, trying to claim entrapment, unauthorized surveillance, civil rights violations. Will it work?" "Not a chance. We've got him on camera discussing weapons sales. We've got the physical weapons. We've got the buyer network documentation. And we've got your testimony as an embedded federal officer who witnessed the entire operation." His lawyer's just doing what lawyers do, making noise before negotiating plea deals. What about the assault charges? Those stand independent of federal charges. Prosecutors already drawing up state charges. Video evidence from the gala makes it pretty airtight. Maya nodded. "And the fabricated termination documents?" "Wire fraud, conspiracy to interfere with federal investigation, retaliation against protected witness. We've got Morrison on so many charges, his lawyers will be buried for months just cataloging them." Good. Chen studied her. "You really let him hit you, knowing it would be part of the case." "I documented an assault that was going to happen anyway. Morrison's been doing this for years. I just made sure this time there were consequences." "That takes serious nerve." "Or serious commitment to the mission." Chen smiled. "Both, I think. You're going to make one hell of a witness when this goes to trial." But as the federal team packed up equipment and loaded suspects into transport vehicles, Maya found herself thinking about all the other Maya Sanders out there. The real logistics coordinators and warehouse workers who'd faced Morrison's abuse without Navy SEAL training to fall back on. Patterson, Reeves, the 10 others in her casualty file who'd been forced out with NDAs and destroyed careers. Morrison would face justice for weapons trafficking, but he'd face it for the smaller cruelties too. That mattered. That mattered almost as much as the contraband. Captain Voss appeared at her elbow. "Ready to go home, Lieutenant?" Maya looked one last time at Terminal 7, at the containers that held weapons meant for terrorists, at the transport vehicles carrying men who'd valued profit over human life. "Yeah, Captain. I'm ready." They drove back to the safe house in comfortable silence. Outside, San Diego was starting its pre-dawn preparations. Delivery trucks, early commuters, the machinery of a city that never fully stopped. Maya's phone buzzed one more time. Her mother. "Saw on the news about arrests at the shipping terminal. That was you, wasn't it?"
Maya typed back. Can't confirm or deny. That means yes. You okay? Better than okay, Mom. We got them. All of them. Michael would be proud. Maya stared at those 4 words until they blurred. Yeah, I think he would. She set the phone down and watched San Diego turn from night to morning, watched the city wake up a little safer than it had been 24 hours ago, and felt something close to peace settle over the bruise on her cheek. Morrison had taught her something valuable, even if he hadn't meant to. Sometimes the strongest response isn't the loudest one. Sometimes it's the one they never see coming until the cuffs are already on. The federal courthouse in downtown San Diego smelled like old wood and newer ambitions. Maya sat in the witness preparation room 3 days after Morrison's arrest, reviewing testimony notes she'd already memorized. Across the table, Assistant U.S. Attorney David Park, no relation to James, tapped his pen against a stack of evidence folders thick enough to stop bullets. Morrison's legal team is filing every motion they can think of, Park said. Illegal surveillance, entrapment, civil rights violations. It's desperation, but we need to be ready. What's their strongest argument? That you provoked the assault. That your questioning of Morrison's statements at the gala constitutes harassment that justified his response. Maya looked up. Justified slapping me? Their exact words were reasonable defensive reaction to aggressive subordinate behavior. Park's expression showed what he thought of that. It won't work. We've got video showing you speaking calmly while he escalated. But they'll try to make you look like the aggressor. Let them try. They will, and they'll go after your credibility, your military record, your undercover work, anything they can twist into government agent provocateur narrative. Maya set down her notes. My record's clean. Your record's exemplary. 3 tours, Navy Cross, Distinguished Service Medal. That's actually their problem. They'll argue someone with your training could have easily avoided the slap if you'd wanted to. I could have. I know. That's not what we're telling the jury. We're not lying to the jury. Park leaned forward. We're not lying. We're framing. There's a difference. You didn't avoid the slap because you were maintaining your cover. You were embedded in a federal investigation and couldn't blow that cover by demonstrating combat reflexes in front of 50 witnesses. That's true. That's our testimony. Stick to it. Don't elaborate. Don't get defensive. Just calm, factual answers. Maya nodded. She'd done hostile interrogations in Mogadishu. She could handle Morrison's lawyers. The door opened. Captain Voss entered, holding her phone like it might explode. We've got a problem. Park stood. What kind? Morrison's team found the mystery footage. The security video showing someone who looks like Chen breaking into his office during the gala. Maya's stomach tightened. How? Anonymous tip sent to his lawyers this morning. They're filing it as evidence of illegal search and seizure, claiming Chen accessed confidential files without warrant. I never touched those files. That wasn't me in that footage. I know that. You know that. But a jury looking at that video is going to see someone with your build, your hair, your general appearance entering Morrison's private office during the exact time window you claimed to be in the ballroom. Park grabbed the evidence folder. Who sent them the footage? Same source that sent it to Chen originally. Encrypted relay. No trace. Maya felt pieces clicking into place. Our mysterious ally just became our problem. Or they were always the problem, and we just didn't see it yet. Voss pulled up the video on her phone. Morrison's lawyers are arguing this proves federal overreach, that we planted an operative who conducted illegal searches to manufacture evidence. Except I didn't conduct any searches that night. Can you prove that? Maya thought back. The gala, her conversation with James Park, The confrontation with Morrison, the slap, the police station. Every minute accounted for. I can prove I was in the ballroom. Witnesses saw me. The assault happened at 9:47. This footage shows the office break-in at 9:52. I was being escorted out by security at that exact time. Park's expression shifted. That's our defense. Timeline alibi. You were physically elsewhere when this occurred, which raises the question, Voss said slowly. Who was in Morrison's office? And why do they look exactly like you? The three of them sat with that question for a long moment. Maya broke the silence. Someone's running a parallel operation. They're using my investigation as cover for their own agenda. Or someone's trying to tank our case by introducing reasonable doubt about your methods. Either way, we need to identify them before Morrison's trial. If his lawyers can prove that footage is real and someone impersonating a federal officer broke into his office, it compromises everything. Park stood. I'll request continuance. Buy us time to investigate the footage. Morrison's team will oppose it. They'll want to use this momentum. Let them try. Judge Morrison, different Morrison, no relation, is former military. She doesn't like lawyers playing games with national security cases. Voss and Maya left the courthouse together. Outside, news vans clustered near the entrance. Word had leaked about the weapons trafficking arrests. 3 reporters shouted questions as they passed. Lieutenant Chen, is it true you were assaulted by Blake Morrison? Did you provoke the confrontation at the charity gala? Is the federal government targeting successful businessmen? Maya kept walking. Voss ran interference, stone-faced and silent. In the parking garage, Voss turned to her. Media's going to be relentless. Morrison's PR team is already spinning this as government overreach. Let them spin. The evidence speaks louder than PR. Does it? Because right now, Morrison's lawyers are arguing you're a trained operative who infiltrated a private company, provoked an executive into defending himself, then used that as pretext for federal investigation. That's not what happened. I know that. But narrative matters, Chen. Especially when the other side has unlimited legal budget, and we're asking the jury to trust government agents over civilian executives. Maya's phone buzzed. Text from James Park, the warehouse worker, not the prosecutor. Need to talk. Important. Can we meet? She showed Voss. Could be trap. Morrison's people might be using him. Or he has information we need. James helped me from the start. I trust him. Your trust has been weaponized before. Maya typed back. Coffee shop on Harbor Drive, 1 hour. I'm going, she told Voss. With or without backup? With. Always with. I'll have 2 agents on perimeter. They met at a tourist trap coffee shop with overpriced lattes and ocean views. James sat at a corner table, looking like he hadn't slept since the arrests. His hands shook slightly as he lifted his cup. Maya sat across from him. What's wrong? Pacific Freight is collapsing. Stock dropped 40%. Half the executive team resigned. HR is interviewing everyone who ever worked with Morrison. That's standard procedure. It's not just procedure. They're looking for scapegoats, people who knew about the trafficking and didn't report it. Did you know? James met her eyes. I suspected. The weight discrepancies, the routes that didn't make sense, Morrison's paranoia about certain shipments. But I didn't know for sure. And I definitely didn't know how to report it without losing my job. Maya kept her voice gentle. You helped me. That counts. Does it? Because Morrison's lawyers contacted me yesterday. They want me to testify that you manipulated employees, that you created a hostile environment, that you were the problem all along. What did you tell them? That I'd think about it. Maya sat back. You're considering it. I'm considering keeping my job and not getting blacklisted from every logistics company on the West Coast. James's voice cracked slightly. I've got student loans, Maya. Rent, a mother in hospice care. I can't afford to be noble. I'm not asking you to be noble. I'm asking you to tell the truth. The truth is complicated. Morrison hit you, yes. But you did question him publicly. You did push buttons. You were playing a role, but nobody else knew that. From where I stood, you looked like someone deliberately provoking her boss. Because I was. That was my job. But it's not fair to ask me to risk everything to confirm that when I didn't know your real identity. Maya understood. She'd asked people to take risks before. Informants in hostile territory, local guides who faced death for helping Americans. She'd never judged them for self-preservation. If Morrison's lawyers subpoena you, she said carefully, tell the truth as you witnessed it. I won't ask for more than that. Even if it hurts your case, even then, I'm not going to ruin your life to save my testimony. James blinked. You mean that? I mean that. He was quiet for 30 seconds. Then, there's something else. The footage Morrison's lawyers have. The one showing someone breaking into his office. Maya leaned forward. What about it? I saw it happen. The actual break-in. I was working late that night, restocking supply closets near the executive corridor. Someone in a server uniform walks past carrying equipment that looked wrong. Did you see their face? No, they kept their head down. But I remember thinking their walk was off. Too deliberate, like military posture. Like mine? Similar, yeah. But when I saw you later that evening in the ballroom, you were wearing a dress. The person I saw was in server uniform. I didn't connect them until Morrison's lawyers showed me the footage. Maya's mind raced. Why didn't you mention this before? Because I thought I was being paranoid, seeing patterns that weren't there. But now, Morrison's team is using that footage to destroy your credibility, and I'm wondering if I should have said something sooner. You're saying it now, that's what matters. Is it helpful? Very. You're a third-party witness who can place someone else in the corridor during the time I was elsewhere. That supports my alibi. James relaxed slightly. Then I'll testify to that. What I actually saw, not what Morrison's lawyers want me to say. They'll come after you for it. Let them. My mom raised me better than to lie for corporate criminals. Maya reached across the table, squeezed his hand once. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Morrison's lawyers are vicious. This is going to get ugly. He had no idea how right he was. The preliminary hearing happened on a Friday morning. Federal courtroom, Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. No relation to Blake Morrison, but the name similarity made for awkward moments when the bailiff called the case. United States versus Blake Morrison, Derek Walsh, and Thomas Riker. Charges include weapons trafficking, conspiracy to provide material support to terrorist organizations, assault on a federal officer, wire fraud, and obstruction of justice. Morrison sat at the defense table in an expensive suit that couldn't hide the fact he'd lost weight in jail. His legal team, 4 attorneys from a firm that charged hourly rates higher than most people's monthly salaries, projected confidence they probably didn't feel. Walsh looked resigned. Riker looked angry. The prosecution presented evidence systematically. Video from the gala showing the assault, police reports, medical documentation of Maya's injuries, security footage from Terminal 7 showing Morrison personally overseeing weapons shipment, financial records linking him to buyer networks in 4 countries. Morrison's lead attorney, Regina Castellano, stood for cross-examination.
Your Honor, The defense moves to exclude all evidence obtained through Lieutenant Chen's embedded operation on grounds of entrapment and illegal surveillance. Judge Morrison, Patricia, not Blake, looked unimpressed. On what basis? Lieutenant Chen posed as a civilian employee, provoked our client into defensive response, then used that as pretext to expand federal investigation. That's textbook entrapment. Counselor, entrapment requires law enforcement to induce someone to commit crime they wouldn't otherwise commit. Are you arguing your client wouldn't have trafficked weapons without Lieutenant Chen's presence? Castellano didn't miss a beat. I'm arguing the assault charge is manufactured. Lieutenant Chen, a trained Navy SEAL with documented combat experience, could have easily avoided physical contact. Instead, she deliberately positioned herself to receive minimal contact, then classified it as assault to justify federal intervention.
Maya sat in the gallery, forcing herself to stay calm. Every word was calculated to make her look manipulative. Prosecutor Park stood. Your Honor, the video evidence clearly shows Mr. Morrison initiating physical contact. Lieutenant Chen's training is irrelevant to whether assault occurred. It's entirely relevant, Castellano countered. A reasonable person with SEAL training would have defensive reflexes. The fact that Lieutenant Chen suppressed those reflexes suggests premeditation to manufacture justification for assault charges. Judge Morrison leaned back. So your argument is that Lieutenant Chen is too well trained to be a credible assault victim? My argument is that she allowed the contact to occur as part of a larger operation to entrap my client. And the weapons trafficking? Was that also manufactured? Castellano shifted tactics. We're not disputing the weapons were present. We're disputing whether my client knowingly participated in trafficking. The evidence could equally support a theory that Lieutenant Chen or her mysterious accomplice planted those weapons to frame him. Park shot to his feet. That's absurd, Your Honor. The financial records alone. Financial records that Lieutenant Chen's unknown accomplice could have fabricated. We have video evidence showing someone who looks remarkably like Lieutenant Chen breaking into my client's office. That same person could have planted incriminating documents. Maya felt the courtroom shift. Castellano was good. She was taking the mystery footage and weaponizing it into reasonable doubt about everything. Judge Morrison held up one hand. Both counsels, approach. They huddled at the bench for 3 minutes of whispered argument. When they returned, the judge's expression was carefully neutral. I'm ordering a 2-week continuance. The prosecution will provide complete timeline documentation for Lieutenant Chen's movements during the gala night. The defense will provide technical analysis of the security footage in question. We'll reconvene to address the admissibility issues before proceeding to trial. Morrison's team looked satisfied. Park looked frustrated. Outside the courtroom, Voss pulled Maya aside. That footage is killing us. We need to identify who was really in Morrison's office. I'm working on it. Work faster. Castellano just planted doubt in that judge's mind. If we can't prove that wasn't you, she'll argue everything we collected is fruit of poisonous tree. Maya's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then saw the message preview. Want to know who was in Morrison's office? Check your car. Driver's seat. Blue envelope. She showed Voss. That's our mystery player again. Setting up another meeting. Or a trap. They approached Maya's car cautiously, Voss with hand near her weapon. The envelope sat exactly where the text promised. Blue paper, sealed, no markings. Inside, photos. High-resolution images showing a woman in server uniform entering Morrison's office during the gala. The woman's face was visible in 3 shots. She looked exactly like Maya. Same hair, same build, same bone structure. But it wasn't Maya. That's a professional, Voss said quietly. operative-level disguise work. Why? Why go through this much trouble to look like me? A second paper in the envelope, handwritten note. Morrison wasn't the target. The buyer network was. You handled Morrison. I handled the buyers. Parallel operations, convergent goals. The disguise was insurance. If your cover broke, I could complete the mission using your identity as distraction. You're welcome, by the way. Maya read it twice. Someone's been running mirror operation the entire time. Someone with resources that rival federal intelligence, maybe exceed it. Who has that kind of capability? Voss's phone rang. She answered, listened, her expression darkening. When? Are you sure?
Pause. Send me everything. She ended the call, looked at Maya with something between admiration and concern. Morrison's buyer network just collapsed. Simultaneous arrests in 4 countries. Europol, Interpol, Allied Intelligence Services. 47 people in custody within the last 6 hours. That's not our operation. We didn't coordinate that. No, we didn't. But someone did. Someone who knew exactly when Morrison would be arrested, exactly when to move on the buyers, exactly how to coordinate multinational law enforcement without leaving fingerprints. Maya looked at the photos again, at her own face on someone else's body. We've got a guardian angel. A very dangerous, very capable guardian angel who's been protecting this operation from angles we never even saw. Or we've got someone using us as cover for something bigger. Either way, they just saved our case. These arrests prove the buyer network existed, prove Morrison was connected to international trafficking. Castellano can't argue it was all manufactured if 4 countries just arrested people we didn't even know about. Voss wasn't smiling. Chen, someone out there has been inside our operation from day 1. They've anticipated our moves, covered our gaps, and executed parallel mission we had no visibility on. That's not guardian angel. That's control we never had in the first place. Maya understood. They'd thought they were running the operation. Turned out someone else had been running it all along. They'd just been convenient cover. The question was, what did that someone want in return? And would Maya like the answer when she found out? The answer came 3 days later at 0600 hours when Maya found someone sitting in her apartment. She'd cleared the space, checked every corner, set perimeter alarms that would wake the dead. Yet there she was, a woman in her 50s, gray hair pulled back military tight, sitting at Maya's kitchen table like she'd been invited. Maya's hand went to her weapon. Don't. The woman's voice carried command authority that made Maya hesitate. I'm not here to hurt you, Lieutenant. I'm here to explain. Who are you? Colonel Sarah Vance, Defense Intelligence Agency. Retired, officially. Unofficially, I run operations your captain doesn't have clearance to know about. Maya kept her weapon drawn, but didn't aim. You're the parallel operation. I'm the reason your operation succeeded. And before you get territorial, understand that Morrison was never the primary target. He was a node in a network we've been tracking for 8 years. You gave us the opportunity to collapse the entire structure. By using me as cover. By protecting you when Morrison's crew wanted you dead. Vance slid a folder across the table. 3 times, Lieutenant. 3 times Morrison's people planned to eliminate you. 3 times we intervened without you knowing. Maya opened the folder. Photos of Riker meeting with a known contract killer. Walsh purchasing untraceable weapons. Morrison himself discussing permanent solutions to the federal problem. You were watching the entire time. We were ensuring success. Your operation focused on Morrison. Ours focused on his international buyers.
The weapons trafficking network stretched into military contractors, intelligence services, and political structures across 4 continents. Taking down Morrison was important. Dismantling the network was essential. Why not tell naval intelligence? Why work around us? Vance's expression hardened. Because naval intelligence reports to people who report to people, and somewhere in that chain was a leak. Someone feeding Morrison intel about federal interest. Someone who would have burned your operation the moment they learned about it.
Maya sat slowly. The mole. Former Deputy Director of Counterterrorism, currently in federal custody, arrested the same night as Morrison, just with less publicity. We couldn't risk exposure until every piece was in position.
You could have warned me.
We couldn't risk you changing behavior. Morrison's people were profiling you constantly. One wrong move, one suspicious pattern, and they'd have known you were more than you appeared.
So you let him slap me?
We documented him slapping you. There's a difference. Lieutenant, I've read your file. 3 combat tours, Navy Cross for valor. You've taken enemy fire without flinching. A corporate bully hitting you was minor injury from major intelligence gain. Maya's jaw tightened. That wasn't your call to make. No, it was yours. And you made it. Don't pretend you didn't know exactly what you were doing when you provoked Morrison at that gala. You wanted him to hit you. You needed the documentation. We just made sure it served multiple purposes. The words landed harder than Maya wanted to admit, because Vance was right. She had provoked Morrison, had positioned herself for exactly the outcome that occurred.
The disguise, Maya said. The person who looked like me breaking into Morrison's office. That was your operative? That was insurance. If your cover broke, we needed Morrison to believe you'd already gathered evidence he couldn't contain. The footage kept him paranoid, kept him making mistakes, and now his lawyers are using it to argue federal overreach, which actually helps us. How does that help? Because it forces them to authenticate the footage, which means court discovery, which means they have to prove that wasn't you. And when they do, they'll expose the fact that someone else was running operations against Morrison independently of federal law enforcement. Someone with resources and access that terrify people more than naval intelligence.
Maya saw it. You're scaring them into plea deals. Morrison's lawyers met with prosecutors yesterday. They're negotiating surrender. 47 counts, life in federal prison, no trial, no exposure of classified operations, clean resolution. And Walsh, Riker? Cooperation agreements. They're testifying against the buyer network in exchange for reduced sentences. Everyone wins except the people who were trafficking weapons. Maya looked at the photos again, at the evidence of threats she'd never known existed. You saved my life. I ensured mission success. Your life was component of that mission. That's a cold way to say it. I'm a cold person, Lieutenant. You would be too if you'd spent 30 years watching people like Morrison sell weapons that kill innocents. Your brother wasn't the first casualty of this network. He was number 4,763. I've counted every single one. The number hit Maya like a physical blow. 4,763 confirmed deaths from weapons this network trafficked over the past decade. IEDs, suicide bombs, mass shootings, terrorist attacks, all funded by people like Morrison who valued profit over human life. Your brother died in Afghanistan, but the weapons that killed him were sold through Morrison's network to buyers who sold them to terrorists who planted them in roads where Americans traveled. Maya's hands shook. You knew about Michael. I knew about all of them. That's why I do this work. That's why I run operations without authorization, without oversight, without the bureaucracy that lets people like Morrison operate for years before anyone stops them.
You're telling me this because your part of the operation is complete. Morrison pleads guilty next week. The buyer network is dismantled. The leak in counterterrorism is plugged. Your testimony put the final pieces in place. Vance stood. And because you deserve to know your brother's death mattered, that the mission you volunteered for actually changed something. What happens now? Now you decide what kind of operator you want to be. Naval intelligence will offer you a position. Good work, important work, within the system. But there are other options for people with your particular skills and moral flexibility. You're recruiting me. I'm presenting an option. People like you, Lieutenant. People who can take a hit for the mission, who can see the long game, who understand that justice sometimes requires patience more than firepower. We need people like you. For what? For the wars nobody talks about. The operations that don't exist. The missions where success means nobody ever knows you were there. Vance walked to the door. Think about it. When you decide, you'll know how to find me. Will I? Vance smiled, the first human expression Maya had seen from her. You found Morrison. You'll find me.
She left, and Maya sat alone in her kitchen with photos of threats that never materialized and the weight of knowing someone had been protecting her from shadows she'd never seen. The trial happened faster than anyone expected. Morrison's guilty plea meant no jury, just sentencing. Federal courtroom packed with reporters, victims' families, former employees who'd suffered under Morrison's abuse. Maya sat in the front row wearing her dress uniform, Navy Cross visible, Distinguished Service Medal catching light every time she breathed. Morrison entered in prison orange. The expensive suits were gone. So was the arrogance. He looked smaller somehow, like accountability had physically diminished him. Judge Morrison, Patricia, the good one, reviewed the plea agreement with careful precision. Mr. Morrison, you're pleading guilty to 47 counts, including weapons trafficking, conspiracy to provide material support to terrorist organizations, assault on a federal officer, wire fraud, and obstruction of justice. Do you understand these charges? Yes, Your Honor. And you understand the sentence recommendation is life in federal prison without possibility of parole? Morrison's voice cracked. Yes, Your Honor. Do you wish to make a statement before sentencing? Morrison's lawyer whispered something. Morrison shook his head. No, Your Honor. Very well. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on behalf of the victims? Prosecutor Park stood. The government calls Lieutenant Maya Chen. Maya walked to the witness stand, was sworn in, looked directly at Morrison for the first time since Terminal 7. Park's questions were straightforward. Background, operation details, Morrison's assault, the investigation's outcome. Then, Lieutenant Chen, Mr. Morrison's actions had personal significance for you. Can you explain? Maya took a breath. My brother, Corporal Michael Chen, was killed 3 years ago in Afghanistan by an IED. The weapons used in that attack were traced to a trafficking network connected to Mr. Morrison's operations. While Mr. Morrison wasn't directly responsible for my brother's death, his actions contributed to the system that made it possible. Morrison's head dropped. This operation wasn't about revenge. It was about preventing other families from experiencing what mine did. It was about accountability, about ensuring people who profit from violence face consequences. Park nodded. And the assault? How did that impact you? It confirmed what I already knew, that Mr. Morrison believed power meant immunity from consequences, that he could hurt people without accountability. The slap wasn't the crime. The mindset behind it was. Thank you, Lieutenant.
No further questions. Morrison's lawyer declined cross-examination. Smart choice. Judge Morrison delivered the sentence with no hesitation. Mr. Morrison, you have shown consistent disregard for human life, for law, and for basic decency. Your actions enabled violence across multiple continents. You assaulted a federal officer. You obstructed justice. And you showed no remorse until facing inevitable conviction. She paused. Life in federal prison. 47 counts, consecutive. No parole. Restitution to be determined. Forfeiture of all assets connected to criminal enterprise. The gavel fell. Morrison was led away. He didn't look back. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Lieutenant Chen, how do you feel about the sentence? Do you believe justice was served? What message does this send to other traffickers? Maya stopped, looked at the cameras, chose her words carefully. Justice was served, but more importantly, a network that enabled violence was dismantled. 47 arrests.
4 countries, hundreds of weapons removed from circulation. That's what matters. Not one man's sentence, but the system change that prevents future harm.
Do you have any words for Morrison? Maya considered. I hope he uses his time in prison to understand the true cost of his choices. The families destroyed, the lives ended, the suffering he enabled. Accountability starts with recognition. She walked away before they could ask more questions. Captain Voss waited by the car. That was good. Professional. Measured. I meant every word. I know. That's why it was good. Voss pulled out an envelope. Naval Intelligence wants you. Counter-Trafficking Division. Lead investigator. Based here in San Diego. Good salary, good team, important work. Maya took the envelope. Didn't open it. And the other option? What other option? The one Colonel Vance mentioned. Voss's expression stayed neutral, but her eyes showed she knew exactly what Maya meant. That's not a path everyone can walk, Chen. No oversight, no backup, no one to pull you out when operations go wrong. But the work matters. All the work matters. Question is what kind of operator you want to be. Inside the system or outside it? Maya looked at the courthouse, at the place where Morrison had finally faced consequences, at the symbol of a justice system that worked when people fought to make it work. I want to be the kind of operator who changes systems, not just catches criminals. Voss smiled. Then you already know your answer. 6 months later, Maya stood in front of 200 special operations personnel at Camp Pendleton. The auditorium was packed. SEALs, Marines, Army Rangers, Air Force Special Tactics. All there for mandatory training on undercover operations and restraint-based tactics. The projection screen behind her showed Morrison's mugshot next to photos of the dismantled trafficking network. This operation succeeded because we understood something fundamental, Maya began. Power isn't about who hits hardest, it's about who thinks clearest. Morrison had resources, lawyers, institutional protection. We had patience, documentation, and the understanding that sometimes taking a hit is the setup for the knockout. She clicked to the next slide, the gala footage. Morrison slapping her standing still. This moment changed everything. Not because I took a slap, but because I documented it. Because I understood that my personal pride mattered less than mission success. Because I knew restraint is a weapon most people never learn to use. A Marine in the third row raised his hand. Ma'am, with respect, couldn't you have avoided that entirely? Used your training to prevent the assault? Absolutely. I could have dodged, blocked, or countered. But then what? Morrison backs off, gets more cautious, Maybe even get suspicious about why a logistics coordinator has combat reflexes. The mission gets harder. The evidence gets scarcer. The network keeps operating. She let that sink in. Sometimes the most tactical decision is to let someone show you exactly who they are. Then use that truth to dismantle everything they've built. Another hand. Female SEAL candidate. Young. Intense. How did you maintain cover while taking that kind of abuse? I remembered why I was there. My brother died because weapons traffickers like Morrison valued profit over human life. Every day I spent undercover, every humiliation I endured, every threat I documented. All of it served a purpose larger than my ego. When you connect your personal mission to something beyond yourself, endurance becomes easier. The presentation continued for 90 minutes. Case study breakdowns, psychological warfare tactics, documentation protocols. The room stayed engaged, asking questions that showed they understood the implications. After, a senior SEAL commander approached her. "Chen, that was exceptional. We're implementing this training across all DevGru teams. The Chen protocol. Restraint as tactical advantage." I appreciate that, sir, but it's not new. We've always known patience matters. I just made it visible. You made it doctrine. There's a difference. That evening, Maya drove to the National Cemetery, found Michael's headstone among thousands of white markers that stretched toward the horizon like silent witnesses to sacrifice. She knelt, traced his name with her fingers. Corporal Michael Chen, beloved son and brother, died serving his country. We got them, Mike. Morrison, the buyers, the whole network. 4,763 people they killed. You were one of them. But you're the reason I didn't stop. The words caught in her throat. I know you tell me I'm being dramatic. That I should have dodged the slap, that taking hits isn't smart tactics. But you also taught me that some fights are worth the damage. Remember when you stood up to those kids bullying me in 7th grade? You took 3 hits before the teacher stopped it. You could have walked away, but you didn't, because protecting people mattered more than avoiding pain. She wiped her eyes. This was the same thing, just bigger. Morrison's in prison for life. His network's destroyed. The weapons pipeline is closed. And it all started because I let him show everyone exactly who he was. The wind moved through the cemetery, carrying ocean salt and something that felt like peace. I'm being reassigned. Counter-trafficking operations, specialized division. I'll be doing this work full-time now, stopping people like Morrison before they create more casualties like you. It's not bringing you back, but it's making sure your death counted for something. She stood, saluted her brother's grave with the precision their father had taught them both, and walked back to her car. Her phone buzzed. Text from an encrypted number that didn't exist. Nice speech at Pendleton. You're ready for the next level. When you decide, look for the blue envelope. You'll know where. Maya almost deleted it. Almost chose the safer path, the official assignment, the career that came with oversight and backup. But Michael hadn't chosen safe. He'd chosen purpose. And so would she. She drove home, found the blue envelope exactly where she expected it, tucked behind the photo of Michael she kept on her mantle. Inside, coordinates, a date, and a single sentence. Some wars don't have flags. They still need warriors. Maya looked at the coordinates, recognized them as a location 200 miles north. Undisclosed military installation, the kind that didn't appear on maps. She had 72 hours to decide. 72 hours to choose between the system that had given Morrison 47 life sentences and the shadow operations that had ensured those sentences happened. between oversight and autonomy, between the warrior everyone sees and the warrior no one knows exists. 3 days later, Captain Voss found a resignation letter on her desk. Professional, courteous, thanking Naval Intelligence for the opportunity, but declining the counter-trafficking position. Voss wasn't surprised. She'd known Maya long enough to recognize when someone had found their actual calling. She picked up her phone, called a number that connected to nowhere. "She chose you," Voss said when the line clicked open. Colonel Vance's voice came through clear. "She chose the mission. There's a difference. Take care of her." "I'll keep her alive. She'll take care of herself." The line went dead, and somewhere 200 miles north, at an installation that didn't officially exist, Maya Chen reported for a duty that had no name, no rank, and no recognition beyond the people who understood that some victories never make headlines. She'd spent 6 months being slapped, humiliated, and underestimated. She'd spent 6 months proving that the quietest response is often the most devastating. Morrison learned that lesson in federal prison. The trafficking network learned it through simultaneous arrests across 4 continents, and every operator who'd ever mistaken silence for weakness learned it through the footage that now played in training sessions worldwide. Because Maya Chen had taught them all something their instructors never could. That restraint isn't surrender. That patience isn't weakness. That sometimes the strongest warriors are the ones you never see fighting until the battle's already won. Morrison had thought he was dealing with a helpless logistics coordinator. He'd actually been dealing with something far more dangerous. A SEAL who understood that you don't need to throw the first punch when you're holding all the evidence. And in the end, documentation proved more powerful than any slap could ever be.